This is a Ford ignition lock that's used in a lot of Ford vehicles. Everything from a 1996 Ford Bronco to a 2020 Ford Econoline van. I think the old style vans. It's used in the Ford Expedition, the Ford Explorer for a lot of years. And I'll try and compile a list and put it in the description so you know what this lock is for. You can get this lock online, and it comes with two keys, but the problem is these are not transponder keys, they're just regular keys. And Ford around 1996 started to add transponder systems to their vehicles to increase security. So if you happen to have a Ford vehicle with a transponder system, then you need a transponder key. So if you install this lock and try and start it with these keys, your car won't start. You have two options. You can either buy a new transponder key, have it cut to fit this key, but then you need a locksmith to come out and configure your car to recognize a new transponder key. Or you can take this lock apart, rekey it to work with your working transponder key, and use your working transponder key, your old one, with this new lock. So I'm going to show you how to take this lock apart and reassemble it, and talk about how you can key it without any extra parts or having to buy anything else. So the first step in disassembling this lock is it comes with this plastic cover that's just used to protect this part, this thing that makes your car go buzz when you leave the keys in the ignition, you're getting out of your car. And the first step, you can see that the lock works. There's this little piece here. You want to lift up on this spring-loaded arm and lift this piece out and then pull it off. And it's good if you have like a magnetic parts thing, because there's a lot of things you can lose. And then the next step, you need to turn this head of the lock here, the bezel, all the way to the right, clockwise when you're looking at it from this direction. And what's preventing it from turning is there is a little ball and spring that's in a hole in the lock cylinder here, and this little 90-degree turn here, it's getting that little ball is hitting this 90-degree turn and prevent it from turning any farther. So what you have to do is I grab the lock like this, and I'm able to turn it with my one hand. I'm going to try and do this with a screwdriver. I may have to get a smaller pocket knife to do it, but I usually use a small pocket knife. I'm going to try to use this little screwdriver, press that ball and spring in. Not sure it's going to work, but got it. And then I've kept my finger over the hole of where this thing came out of, and you can see there's that little ball, and that spring's in there too. But do not lose that. And it's coated in grease, so it's kind of hard to get out. And there's the spring. And during this whole process, you have to have the key in the lock. So now I'm able to turn the lock a little bit farther clockwise when viewing it like this, and I can pull it out. And I think sometimes they put little springs and rods in here, but I don't think there's one in this particular lock. And then you have access to all these wafers and springs. So if you remove the lock or the key, all these wafers are going to pop up and move around, and now they're vulnerable. You can lose the wafers and you can lose the spring, so be careful. I'm going to try and get a wafer out. Just show you what you're dealing with. There's the wafer and there's the spring. And these wafers in this particular brand lock are all numbered. You can see that that's a 3, and the possible numbers are 1 through 5. But if you had a transponder key and you wanted to rekey this lock to work with that transponder key, what I would do is take all these wafers out and lay them in 5 different rows by their number, and take the springs out and figure out how your working transponder key is cut. Find out which wafers will work with which cuts in the key. Put the wafers back in their right position. And even if you don't have all the slots filled because you don't have enough of the right numbers, you'll still have some lock security, and your lock will function as a lock, and you can use your transponder key even if it is technically less secure. But that will save you a lot of money if you do it like that. And then after you have that done, you're ready to reassemble the lock. One other thing I forgot to mention: after you have all the wafers out, you can insert the key, and you can see where the if you have good lighting and everything, you can see where the cuts on the key line up to which slot, so you can better determine which what cut you have, whether it's a 1, 2, 3, or 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. But now I'm ready to reassemble this. So I usually you want to lift up on this little spring-loaded thing here, switch. It's technically, I guess it's a switch. And reinsert this. Oh, and another thing, there's a plastic piece right here that pops up when you insert the key. Make sure you don't lose that. And then just turn it until you find where it fits into the lock, and then make sure that that switch thing is lifted up. Now it's in the lock. You want to turn it all the way to the right clockwise, and you're ready to reinsert that spring and ball. And you take the spring, you insert it, and you put the ball back in its place on top of the spring. And what I use is just a ballpoint pen like this, with the pin not out but in the pin, and I just place it over the ball, press it down, and with the other hand turn it until it's latched again. Then lift up on this spring-loaded piece, reinsert this piece. I think this is the part that locks the lock into the steering column. Reinsert that together again, put it in place, and it's all back together. And then you can reinsert this thing if you're not going to install the lock right away, which that's what I'm going to do. So that's how you deal with this lock if you want to take it apart and reposition the wafers to work with your existing transponder key, so you don't have that extra, which would probably cost a couple $100 to have a locksmith come out and do it for you. But I'll just go over the process once more. You have 2 options. If your car's Ford cars that use a transponder system and you get this lock, you can either buy a new transponder key, take this key out, call the locksmith, give them this key. They can cut duplicate the cuts on this key to the new transponder key. They'll install this lock. They'll insert the new transponder key into the lock. Then they'll plug in their diagnostic locksmith tool to the computer, and they'll configure your car to recognize the new key. Or You can take it apart yourself, reposition those pins, and so that the lock will work with your existing transponder key, and just install the lock. You won't have to do any what they call programming. Technically isn't programming, it's configuration, but whatever, they call it programming. You won't have to deal with that programming process of hiring someone to do it for you. So that's it. That's the video. Thanks for watching.